Hello again. This is an introductory little blurb on our first module. There are 4 modules. Let me look over here to my paper, make sure 1, 2, 3, 4 modules in this course. Some of the modules, like the one I'm going to talk about today, will last longer than others. So the first module that we're going to look at is a module called It's a module called Race and Ethnicity Matter. Now, in this country, and scientifically, how we think about race and ethnicity varies over historical time. That's one of the take-home lessons from this course. So in some historical periods, Mexicans are considered white, and other historical periods, they're considered non-white. And so we're going to be examining within the United States context what race and ethnicity mean. And we're going to look throughout all of these modules at what are the implicit theoretical underpinnings of these constructs. Every position, every lecture you've ever attended, any article you read is based on some theory. Lots of times the theory that the author uses, they're not even aware of it. And so I'm going to be asking you to think about what underlies that notion that black people have poorer health. What explains the health disparities for African Americans or for Puerto Ricans? When I go to many meetings, people say things like, oh, well, black people smoke more, but actually black people smoke less. Or Latinos do this different or that different, even though they lump together 50, 60, 70 different groups of people and cultures. So we're going to look at that critically. Is race a scientific category or not? Is ethnicity a scientific category? How do we track these? How do we measure these in our health research? If we're concerned about health disparities, health inequities, and we don't have a good measure for race or for ethnicity, what are we really doing? So those are going to be some of the items and problems we're going to look at. In this first module, you're going to find a number of interesting articles. One, which is a little lengthy, is by Bird, and he is going to have an overview of historical background on race and ethnicity in the United States. So this is a brief summary of the health status of the different minorities in the United States. It's the best short summary I could find, and it comes from the Institute of Medicine seminal report of several decades ago. So that's going to be the foundation for the historical look. And then we're going to look at a couple of articles about the health status of Native Americans, and what that means, and we're going to examine something that's not usually taught in public health but is a part of the psychological literature, which is the role of historical trauma for Native Americans. Native American researchers have really developed this concept, and what they argue is that trauma, bad things that happened to Indians 50, 75, 100 years ago, have real impact on people's health today. So one of the big questions is, does this notion make sense? Does it resonate with you? And does it apply to any other groups, to Puerto Ricans, to African Americans, to Mexicans? We're also going to look at what is called in the literature the Hispanic paradox, or the Latino paradox. And what this is a observation that for many health outcomes, birth outcomes, obesity, and many other things, new immigrants, new Latino immigrants, predominantly Mexican, new Latino immigrants appear to be healthier than native-born Americans and than African Americans. And how could this be, since they are relatively uneducated, poor, have language difficulties, have less insurance? How is it that some of these health outcomes appear to be better than you would expect? This is what's called the Latino paradox. So we're going to look at some articles that look at that raise the question of acculturation and how that might impact health, and really how we measure this phenomena of the Latino paradox. Are we really measuring it the right way? And does it really exist? The last important concept we're going to look at in Module 1 on race and ethnicity is the role of segregation. Residential segregation by some people, like David Williams, is considered a fundamental cause of health disparities in the United States. I'm not sure I agree with that, but clearly residential segregation has characterized certainly the relationship of African Americans to whites for many generations. So we're going to read an article that's going to look at residential segregation for Latinos and blacks. What are the differences? how does residential segregation really impact how resources are divided up, and how does it influence people's health status? For this first module, you'll have a chance to look at a few short clips from the documentary Unnatural Causes, for those of you that haven't seen it or can't remember it, just to help stimulate the discussion and give you something pleasant to do.